Hey nerds, welcome to the Nerd Rundown presents Sequel Nerds. As today we'll be talking about movie sequels in their best form, worst form, and what sequels we think need to be made. So I'm your host, Darren Stemple. You all know my co-pilot, Eric Hare.
How do you do, fellow kids?
All right.
I was like, what is he doing?
I know.
This is becoming a real live GIF. And I'm sure by now you all know our third host as Big Morg 3000, Morgan Santo.
Bussin'. Sheesh.
I'm going to cut you guys off next time.
Along the theme of how you doing, fellow?
How do you do, fellow kids?
Yeah. Good Steve Buscemi reference right there.
Yeah, listen, love him.
Anyway, so sequels. Very, 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 very big part of the nerd world. You know, anything pretty much, if it's a successful nerd movie, it's going to get a sequel and become a franchise. So we wanted to list out what we think are the three best sequels with some parameters around these lists. Our three best sequels, our three worst sequels, and then three sequels that we feel like should be made or that we need to see. So I'm very excited to hear what your guys' lists are today. Let's start with you, Eric, on what your three best sequels are.
Okay.
Any particular order?
Yeah. So I will start with number 3 and move down to number 1. So
okay.
I played a little game with myself on this one in that I restricted myself in all three categories to the 1980s. I kept myself only to 1980s.
I like the theme within the theme.
Yeah, yes. I didn't expect that.
So yeah,
no.
So
okay.
So
you nerd.
Nerd.
So by doing that, it eliminated some franchises that I thought maybe could have been done. So best sequels, I will start off with is Lethal Weapon 2. So Lethal Weapon 2, the first Lethal Weapon movie was awesome. I mean, it was really, really great. They did a great job with, Richard Donner did a great job with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. You know, Mel Gibson's character is this crazy guy. You know, everybody thinks he's trying to kill himself, and Danny Glover is like, he's just days from retirement. He's just trying to get through. You know, but
he's too old for this shit.
He is too old for this.
In the first one, he's too old for this shit.
Right. So. And they're making 5 more. So when
40 years ago he was
right, so it was interesting, when they came up with a sequel. I was like, I don't know, you always get nervous when they do a sequel.
Oh yeah.
But honestly, the sequel might have been better than the first movie. It really was that good. I think how they took the camaraderie and elevated it up and really just made them, brothers. I mean, they really were just like brothers, and then bringing in Joe Pesci as Leo Getz was just brilliant. I mean, absolutely brilliant. They just did such a great job. And who doesn't hate South Africans? I mean, it's really, the whole apartheid thing I thought was a great thing. And I mean, they just were dicks. So it's super cool that you can make that, make those guys the bad guys. So all in all, great movie. Loved it. My second one was Aliens, Jim Cameron's sequel to Ridley Scott's Alien movie. Moving from a pure horror movie into more of an action film. Still had that kind of horror suspense feel to it. You have the disgusting, creatures and stuff like that, but instead of having just one, you've got hundreds of them. And, and so that was super cool. I mean, one of the most terrifying scenes is the part where I think it's Hicks goes up through the ceiling, and because they can see these things. I mean, I can still hear that. I close my eyes and I can still hear that tractor going, and and you're like, oh my gosh, that countdown just going, and you're like, well, where the hell are they? And then they looks up and they're like, oh my gosh, and then it's game on. From that point on, it's just pure mayhem. So loved Aliens. Jim Cameron just and the movie. The movies that made us did a really great job kind of doing the behind the scenes on that movie. So Aliens is number 2 on my list. This will come as no surprise to you guys again, because I locked in number 2. I locked in with the 80s. Star Trek 2 is my number 1 sequel from the 80s. Not just because of how good it is, but how bad the first one was. The motion picture was not a good movie. It was really, really awful. So the bar was set pretty low, but they really knocked it out of the park with Star Trek 2, and for a small budget. They really didn't have a huge budget with Star Trek 2 to kind of work with. But it is such a fantastic character development movie. You have Kirk, who's changing from being this, the young guy that's out, riding through the galaxy, saving planets and all this different stuff, to a guy who's turning, 50 some years old. It's his 50th birthday in this one. And he's got to get, McCoy gives him glasses. And so there's just a very human, aging part to this, where we could all kind of reflect on that and look at it and go, this is what it's like to get older, and to see the younger generation coming up and replacing you. We can all sympathize with that. And so watching Kirk go through this, and then at the end of the movie, with the situation with Spock, it's real. There's real emotion, because that they've built this friendship. He's not just a crewman on this ship. This is his best friend, and to see him do that in order to,
you can spoil it. It's been long enough.
I know, but I'm not. It's just a great movie. Star Trek 2 is a great movie. So those are my 3 best sequels.
That's good.
Yep.
I thought you were going to cry there for a second.
I could go on and on about how much I love Star Trek 2.
What is Star Trek?
Yeah.
Who is Star Trek?
Nice list. Lethal Weapon 2 was definitely hanging around my top. But I also decided against it because I think I love Lethal Weapon 4 almost as much. It's real close. So it kind of knocked those 2 out, altogether.
Should we
and Rene Russo was also introduced in Lethal Weapon 2.
Great.
Right?
Great.
Was that one where Danny Glover got stuck on the toilet? Is that the one?
That's number 2. That's number 2 where you get stuck on the toilet.
Toilet.
Number 2, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, great list. And Aliens, really great anecdote here about sequels. Aliens shift from a horror movie to an action movie was a really whoa kind of move, and you don't see that happen very often. In fact, I couldn't even think of another one really off the top of my head where a genre is switched in between sequels. So really great list. Morgan, what do you got for your best?
No, that's a pretty good list. And I want to make a quick anecdote about Joe Pesci. It amazes me. I had a conversation with a friend of who's like the toughest gangster in gangster movies. And we're going through these, and he goes, Joe Pesci. And I'm like, Joe Pesci. And then I think about it, and I'm like, oh, good Lord. He is like the toughest gangster out of the gangster movies is 3 foot tall Joe Pesci.
Definitely in Goodfellas. Definitely in Casino.
Casino. He's amazing in Casino. Brutal.
But
even in JFK. He plays a kind of a bad guy, bad dude in JFK.
So, for my best, number 3, I have The Dark Knight.
Okay.
Batman Begins is a fantastic movie. It really took that whole Batman genre into. It reminds me of with Michael Keaton, you had those first 2 that was like, oh, Batman could be something more. And then the Christopher Nolan Batmans went, oh, this could be perfected into a really good trilogy or whatever you want to call it that just holds its own with a bunch. And then, of course, the performance by Heath Ledger, it just took Batman to a whole nother level that really made him, I don't know, beyond the
top tier with Spider-Man in the world.
Exactly, top tier in the sense that was a good movie everybody liked. So that's my number 3 all around.
Yeah, he was super popular, but it was like Spider-Man and Superman and Batman was top 5, but it made him like 1A, 1B with
yeah, it took him to a level where people that were even like, I don't really care about Batman stuff, even like, I like this. This is really good.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes back to our discussions we've had before, the points we make about the villain. The better your villain is, the better your hero becomes.
Yeah.
You know, like if your villain is so, and Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, the Joker throughout time has always been the number one villain, although in the Lego Batman movie, you know, it cracks me up how they go against that. But, you know,
and he's not quite the Cesar Romero.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Joker in this one.
but it makes a huge difference. And Heath Ledger runs circles around Christian Bale's Batman in that. It just is really good. It's a great pick, Morgan.
My number 2 will surprise you. It's Aliens.
You guys both. That was both number 2.
That was both number 2.
Nice.
Again, Aliens. I don't have much more to say other than what Eric said. You know, the thing with Aliens that always stands out is when you talk to people about the Alien franchise, they forget there was an alien before Aliens.
Yeah, totally. Great point.
They always think Aliens was the start of it.
Right.
People forget about the first one.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about this. I'm going to be an idiot if I am. Isn't it in Aliens, if I remember from watching how the stuff was made, isn't there a scene where you see the aliens kind of for the first time up in like tubing and stuff that you know it's there.
Yes.
Like it's there and he's there, but you would never notice it unless you're really looking for it. Which is fantastic because it's one of those things like they knew nobody would see it, but they knew your subconscious would see it.
Right.
If something isn't right about that wiring and tubing.
Yeah, because I mean there's a whole big part about where Hudson says they're coming out of the walls, man. They're coming out of the goddamn walls, you know. And only the way Bill Paxton can say that, but you know, I mean, there is one where he's up against the wall, and all of a sudden he just slides out of the wall, and he was there the whole time, and you're like, oh my god, you know,
right?
That was a great movies that made us.
The cast, like just amazing.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic! I mean, it was so good.
It's got the most. We get like Alien 1 is iconic, but if you think about iconic images from the Alien franchise, you got the Mother Queen, you got Ripley in her crane suit, the loader.
Yep.
You know, Bill Paxton, the shot of aliens going down the TV, iconic images.
Yeah,
and I don't want
come from that movie.
And I don't want to ruin it because if you ever do the greatest one-liners episode, it's going to be
for sure.
It's going to be
for sure. Yeah, it's game over, man. It's game over.
I mean, it could just be that movie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, so my number 1. T2, Terminator 2.
Oh man, yeah.
I thought that was
Cameron gets both.
Cameron
gets both.
It is my number 1. I think again, it's one of those that you didn't expect much from a Terminator sequel. You expected the same formula, whatever it may be, and just to change it up where, come with me if you want to live. He's the hero, you know.
Right.
Like it was such a simple, just like, hey, let's just make him the good guy now.
Yep.
And the whole movie is just fantastic. Everything about it. It's one of those sequels where you think, honestly, I would say it's better than the first. It's just one of those sequels where I would much rather watch that over the first. You don't even need to watch the first. I could watch the second, and I know what's going on. I know what it is. except he's the hero. You don't know he's the bad guy at first, but no, everything about it, the way it's done, the scale of it, the size of it, the action, everything, all the little things you learn about the movie when you watch the behind the scenes, like we talked about, when, oh my goodness, the bad guy Terminator. Now I feel like
Robert Patrick.
Yes,
T-1000.
about how he learned to run with breathing through his nose, so he looked more robotic when running. It's just all that stuff. Everything about it is just I think it's the perfect sequel to any movie, and it's got my number one spot.
Well, and it's Jim Cameron, and Jim Cameron's demand. And you're going back to the movies that made us for Aliens, real quick. His demand for how he expects his crew and his cast to perform is why you get such great movies every single time out of that guy, and that's why T2 is as good as it is, because of his vision and his demand for the special effects to look amazing, the sets to look the way they do. I mean, everything has to be perfect. And I think you had a long history of him putting together these things to go with T2, to kind of culminate with T2, right, if you will. And man, he didn't miss. They didn't miss. So his like the stuff he does, everything he gets out of his characters, his demand, and everything you watch. I mean, he's one of the greatest. No denying that. The evolution of Sarah Connor too, because the first it's very the same thing with Ripley, in the Alien stuff. The evolution. So in the first movie, she does what she needs to do to survive, but her transformation
getting thrown into this,
right? I mean, because when you leave her in the first movie, she's in the Jeep with the dog, and she's got a revolver with her, and so. But then when you see her in T2, she has completely transformed herself into a Terminator.
She trained for it.
She trained herself to make herself a human Terminator, as close as she could get to doing that. She's weapons training, vehicle, training on maintenance vehicles, all that stuff. Like she's just, she's done it all so that she can teach John to be the leader of this resistance. So,
and it comes awesome. To that, she's a believable hero.
Correct.
Yeah. It wasn't forced.
Yep.
She's believable.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, it's widely regarded as a top 3 sequel of all time.
Mm-hmm.
When you start looking up lists, you see T2 in the top.
Oh, it's always going to be
more
there.
Than any other movie, really.
Oh yeah,
right.
And so it's an incredible movie, and the world building it does to that franchise, and I have a feeling Terminator is going to be a theme, or Terminator or James Cameron is going to be a theme throughout a lot of this. So
no problem.
Yeah, actually, me too.
That's it.
We'll
Good
see.
one, Sam.
Well, you'll see what I'm talking about. My list, number 3. Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
Oh, Young Guns.
Young Guns 2, with Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid. I loved this movie growing up. Loved it. I really need to throw it on. I haven't seen it in a long time, and it's a movie that.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh! It's
I don't think I realized there was a Young Guns 2.
Oh yeah.
It's
unless it's so good. I think that is the only Young Guns.
Bon Jovi.
Maybe
Bon Jovi did that theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not singing Bon Jovi out here.
Yeah.
So you had Dermot Mulroney in there. You had Kiefer Sutherland, Charlie Sheen.
Charlie.
Emilio Estevez is.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was in the first one.
William Peterson. William Peterson from CSI. From if you ever watched the show CSI.
Oh yes, yeah. He plays
Garrett.
Christian
Garrett.
Slater, Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yep.
Yeah, Lou Diamond Phillips. So it's a great cast.
Alan Ruck.
It's one of the last.
Yeah, the
last
William
good
Finch,
Westerns.
isn't it? William Finch.
Viggo Morgenstein.
Yep, Viggo Mortensen.
It's one of the last great westerns, and
I've never seen it.
Highly
I don't know about that, but
one of the, I mean, I couldn't name 5 cents that have been great. In my own opinion, it's
you'll have to watch it because I like the first one.
Yeah, it's great. So
that's a good pick. That's a really good pick. I do love that movie. So
yeah, it's highly rewatchable. Infinitely watchable. Yeah. Infinitely watchable. There you go. Number 2 is Daniel-san. The Karate Kid Part 2 is really hard for me to not even have it number 1. I revisited this series this year, and I've watched Karate Kid Part 2 3 times out of all the movies. So it's so freaking good that it elicits way more emotion as an adult than it did as a kid. I remember loving it as a kid, and, wanting to be Daniel-san, being in karate, but as an adult, you really get an appreciation for the relationship that Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, how much it grows in this movie, the emotion of their relationship, and how it really becomes father-son in that movie. And just the culture of karate that they pay homage to, and the story of Mr. Miyagi's family and the history there. So just an incredible sequel that I love more than the original even. So, and I freaking love the original. I mean, that final scene between Johnny and Daniel is one of the freaking most top 10 scenes of my life. So it's hard for me to put something above it, but that's how good number 2 is.
Well, and the way they start number 2 off right at the tail end of number 1, where he's just won the tournament, and Johnny's like, they're all good, like it's all good except for Kreese. Kreese is just, he can't, because he's just such an a-hole, and so for Miyagi to do what he did, and again, we talked about this was in a different situation, but we talked about callbacks, like to the very opening sequence of this has this great scene between him and Kreese, and then at the end of the movie, you have this callback, and it's just like, and that's brilliant writing. Like that's brilliant writing in movies.
The nose honks.
The nose honk, and it's, and
the music that plays right there. Oh my God,
so good.
It's so good. Daniel's Triumph. So good. It's so good. Bill Conti's
his score. Yeah.
His score is a top 5 most beautiful score of all time.
Yeah. And how beautiful Okinawa is. I think they do a great job of the cinematography showing how beautiful Okinawa is. And probably, I wish it was, wish you got more.
One of my first crushes was I almost called her Tomatio. What's her name in that? Anyway, his Daniel-san's girlfriend in that movie.
She's
one
not
of
ugly.
My first big crushes of all time. Yep. So love that. And then number 1 sequel of all time for me, the one that I probably have seen more than any sequel outside of any Marvel or Star Wars movies, is Die Hard with a Vengeance. And this is one sequel. Funny enough, that's my favorite sequel, but it doesn't top the first one for me, which is it's a weird flip of my list, but it doesn't matter because Die Hard with a Vengeance is like a 9.99 while Die Hard's a 10.0. So it's for me, it's that close to each other. But my God, what a great freaking movie Die Hard with a Vengeance is. I've talked about it endlessly on this show. I love it so much. I watch it more than Die Hard 1, even though Die Hard 1 is, for me, rated higher. But
even my wife likes it. Like,
it's so good. I mean, it's just an amazing story of John McClane and where he'd be at that point in his life, and how he's not really like the great hero that a lot of guys are. He's an alcoholic and he's losing his hair and he he sweats to death running across New York. But he's the best there is on a bad day. So
yeah. Fun fact for you: we deep fried 2 turkeys this Thanksgiving. My dad came down with his fryer. I had mine, right? And we had a 4.5 gallon jug of oil and a 3 gallon jug. And I'm like, oh, I think we just need 3. So we poured the 3 in. And my dad's like, yeah, but how are we going to be able to determine 3 for the other one? And I was like, didn't you see Die Hard with Vengeance? We put the jugs up. We need to pour the one jug into the other jug.
I still watch that, and I'm like, is that the right way to do this? I mean, I still don't really. I feel like there was a time in my life I may have been like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I feel like
I watch it now, and I'm like,
the scale gives you a little bit of
exactly 4 gallons. So that's my best list. My parameters were it cannot be a Marvel, DC, or Star Wars movie. So it's a lot of fun digging into your movie lore when you have that. All right, let's start with you, Morgan, on your worst list, your worst sequels.
That's just tough. Even looking at this,
I gotta tell you, I'm feeling real good right now.
Because of his Kool-Aid. So this is tough. So even looking at this right now,
I'm Graham Norton with the drinks.
On my list, I want to rearrange it as we speak. But all right, so number 3.
Let's hear it.
And we'll see if this might be stretching the rules of sequel. Batman Forever.
Okay.
And I consider it sequel.
Are you serious right now? I'm going to come through this screen right now.
I consider it a sequel because we had Batman Returns, and then we went to Batman Forever.
It's a sequel of those. Absolutely. And just because they changed the Batman doesn't mean it's a different universe.
I could swap it out for something if that doesn't count. But I mean, because we went from the Michael Keaton Batmans to just that. Like, it was just so completely different. So just, I don't know. Everything about it was just,
okay.
It was bad. It was bad.
Yep.
All right. So, I mean, we could fight over whether it counts.
It was at one point in my life my favorite movie of all time, and it was like the very first movie.
I enjoyed it. Yes, but it's just It
had nerd convulsions waiting for a movie. So I get it.
Number 2.
You're wrong.
Son of the Mask.
Oh yeah, this is a terrible one. Thought about this one.
Awful movie.
Really thought about this one.
So awful.
Yes.
I mean, The Mask was enjoyable. Not that The Mask is a great movie. It's enjoyable.
It is a great movie. Okay, don't you say
Jim Carrey's fantastic in it. I mean, he was made for that role.
Absolutely.
And then they did Son of the Mask, and
Loki got a mischief.
Oh my goodness, it was so bad. They even give him weird plastic hair. I don't know. Everything about it was just bad. They tried with what's his name? Jamie Kennedy, is that his name?
Yeah.
X Factor.
Yeah.
They tried.
Great.
It's hard to go from Jim Carrey to that. Jim Carrey.
Oh yeah.
It's his own. He's one of a kind that can change mold everything to the way he needs it. He's fantastic. He's a great artist.
It's like not getting Robin Williams for Aladdin 2 Return of Jafar.
So it was just bad.
It's that bad. Yeah.
Now my number 1 is, I picked this because when you heard it was coming out, I was like, all right, here we go. What are we going to, this is going to be great. And then it came out and you're like, what? WTF. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
It was just trash. Trash. Everything you can think about it, just garbage.
Right.
Garbage. Now I know they're making a new indie. I saw set photos. They're doing a new indie. I can't. I'm upset that Harrison Ford was in it. I'm upset it was an Indiana Jones movie. It was just everything, because he just didn't quite have that Indiana Jones feel. Like, now I know he's much older in this. But he just didn't have that feel to it. Like, you didn't believe he was indie, and just what they did with the alien.
It was terrible. It was
terrible. Just terrible. That's my
Eric's gone on his tirade about it.
Throw it out. Yeah. Throw it out.
It is terrible. It really is.
What was your number 3? Oh yeah,
Batman Forever.
You're wrong, man.
Again, it's loose. Is it a sequel? Whatever. I could switch it up with something else. It's going to be my honorable mention.
You want me to go, Eric, or you want to go?
No, I'm ready. No,
Okay, go ahead.
For sure. So again, stayed in the 80s, which
that was your parameters again?
That was my parameters. So, and number 2 is going to be kind of I'm going to cheat just a little bit, but worst sequels coming out of the 80s, Caddyshack 2.
Yeah.
Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Caddyshack is
really
one of my
that one.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, just of all time. Just amazing. You know, the comedy, the cast, everything about Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, you know, all those guys.
Bill Murray.
Ted Knight, you know, I mean, Bill Murray. Bill Murray. Yep. Yeah, of course. Well,
Bill Murray golfing the roses or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, just
the gopher.
The gopher. Right. I mean, and the soundtrack, you know, was really, really
Kenny
great.
Loggins.
Kenny Loggins. Yep. So, and then Lacey Underall, who I have to say, you know, as a young guy, that was one of the first experiences. What's her name? Yeah. Nixon. I think she's actually married to Dan Aykroyd, but
in real life,
those in real life, those may have been
fake life.
They may have been the bar for which all other racks are judged for quite some time till I was a little bit older. So
yeah.
Yep. So
you know,
yes, rack. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So all right.
I don't even own gun rack.
And that's your
it
number.
Could have been on the list for best sequels though.
That's your number 3.
So I'm going to cheat just a little bit, and I'm going to give you 2 for my number 2. I'm going to say because it was kind of a tie.
All right.
Teen Wolf 2 with Jason Bateman. Just because Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf was just awesome.
You gotta really love the first Teen Wolf in order for that to be number 2.
I watched it with my son, and he was like, "What is this?"
Oh my gosh, I love Teen Wolf. I thought it was great, man. I love Michael.
Surfing on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just awesome.
Anything Michael J. Fox is gold.
Oh yeah,
great. He was absolutely great. And so when they did the Teen Wolf 2, I was like, oh my God, this is like, even as a kid, I was like, oh my God, this is
it's
it helped birth Bateman.
It did. And I don't fault that, but it was pretty rough. And then I also kind of split this one between this and Grease 2, because Grease is just one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're not a musical lover, which I'm not a huge musical lover, but gosh, man, Grease was such a great movie. And then for them to come up with a sequel, again, we do get Michelle Pfeiffer, which I'm not going to say anything bad about.
True.
But Grease 2 was pretty bad. And then my number 1 is arguably the worst sequel of all time. I really dare you guys to come up with something. No, come up with something worse than Jaws 4: The Revenge. You can.
Yes.
It is like, how can you go to the well 4 times and then with this Michael Caine piece of crap?
Jaws' mom, or
I see
the shark follows them to the Bahamas. Come on, like this just is.
Sorry, Sharknado.
Oh, it was so bad. So bad.
I see your Jaws 4 and raise you Superman 4.
Superman 4 piece of.
And that's not one of my question piece. That's not even on my list. It's because the previous movies to those were already bad, and it's not like I was expecting much.
No, but it was like the biggest turd ever. You know, I was like, oh my gosh. But Jaws 4.
Yeah,
it's just terrible. Just
all right.
Yeah, I agree. Good list.
Yeah, very good list. Caddyshack was definitely in my bubble. So, my number 3 worst sequel of all time is. Let's see if you guys get this reference. Alan.
Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park 3. Yeah.
Jurassic Park 3.
Oh, wow. How'd you get that? Wow. I'm like,
if you've seen the honest trailer for Jurassic Park 3, you probably get it because they throw in the Alan part like 14 times. Anyway, Jurassic Park. I love William H. Macy as an actor, and I want to come through the screen and kill him in that movie. Téa Leoni, I love Téa Leoni. I want to come through that screen and kill her. And I can only imagine Sam Neill filming this movie and just being like, oh my gosh.
I cannot wait to cash this check.
This is not this is nothing like number one. So Jurassic Park 3 is so bad, and it's really hard to make a bad Jurassic Park.
Worse than Jurassic World 2?
Jurassic World 2. Oh, I liked that movie. Lost World. Jurassic Park, Lost World. Oh, with Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum makes that movie so much better than Jurassic Park 3. I mean, it's not a good one, The Lost World, but Jeff Goldblum wins. He
Goldblum's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he totally. And the movie really struggles when it's not with him. But the third one is way worse.
The only endearing part of Jurassic Park 3 is that kind of opening sequence where they land and the dude goes out there with the Barrett 50 cal and you think to yourself, oh yeah, that'll take down just about anything. And that thing grabs him right in the middle of the runway as they're trying to and I was like, man, that's an intense scene. And had you cut that out of anything else, it would have been just.
Or the birdcage scene was really not.
Bright
against them. Yeah. So that one was pretty good. Oh no. Yeah. My
I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. I get a herd of things are always tough. But I feel like I could take on a pack of compies. If they're coming at me, I'm snapping necks all day long.
Morgan's like, let me take a drink of this whiskey.
Punching.
I think I could take on that dinosaur over there.
Come here.
I think that's the whiskey. Morgan's getting a little whiskey drunk right now. All right, so
he could also throw a football over that mountain, just so you know.
My number 2 is X-Men 3: The Last Stand.
Oh yes. Yeah.
There was a lot of bad X-Men movies, and there is some I haven't even seen because they're going to be so bad. But my hype for a movie, if I like rank top 5 movies I was hyped for, like out of my mind hyped for. One's already been mentioned, Batman Forever. It was kind of like my first big hype movie. And then the next one was X-Men 3: The Last Stand. I was a month out of the army. The X-Men 3 trailer was amazing. It made it look like the most amazing movie. I remember Brett and I were like texting all day to each other, getting ready to watch it that night. Him in Pennsylvania and me in Colorado. Within 10 minutes, I had never been more mad in my entire life in a movie theater. And
they did Cyclops justice in that movie.
Shut up. You shut your mouth. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. So, I just 2 times I've really walked out of the movie theater ever in my life. Just angry. And it's that one in The Last Jedi. And I'll never forget that feeling of walking out being so pissed at a movie. So my number 1, and one reason why I got so mad Morgan, your Batman Forever pick is because Batman and Robin is way worse.
Totally.
That was almost my number 3, but I went with Batman Forever because it started that crap.
I'm glad maybe that you said Batman Forever, because Batman and Robin is so bad that it killed Batman. And Batman being a character that will live in infamy. That's how bad Batman and Robin was. It brought out the Bat card in that movie. You never leave home without it. The Bat
Never
car.
leave home without it.
Who's
Is this the
financing
holy rusted metal Batman?
no, that's Batman Forever.
That's Batman Forever.
That's Batman Forever.
This is Poison Ivy Batman.
It's Poison Ivy, the ice puns, Batman and Robin.
Stay cool.
Even more noticeable, Bat Nips. Even though the Bat Nips started
the Ice Age.
The Ice Age.
The Ice Age.
Terrible movie.
Batscapes.
So that's my worst list. Let's get to our sequels that we think need to be made, or like sequels we need to see. Okay. So, Eric, I have been waiting all week to hear what your sequels that need to be made are. What are they?
Okay. So Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon was I think nowadays you would be with special effects nowadays, you would be able to make a incredible Flash Gordon movie. Like I just feel like, and I know it was kind of cheesy. It was cheesy and campy. I get it.
That would be tough. That'd be tough. That's a really great pick.
I think you could do a sequel to Flash Gordon and it would easily be way better than than the first one. So which is a guilty pleasure.
Is going to look. I think Shazam 2 is going to play with like this is an updated
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon. Yeah, you're gonna. I think that the whole storyline that's going to happen in that movie, and it'll be like that's what you'll get.
I don't.
Yeah. So my second is kind of coming out of is actually from the small screen. Like I'd like to see a sequel.
Okay.
Buck Rogers. Buck Rogers was a TV show in the 70s and the 80s that was on TV with it was. And it's from earlier serials that they used to have, black and white serials from, I think back in the 30s and 20s and 30s was a character named Buck Rogers in the 25th century or something like that. So, it was about this guy who gets launched in 1997 and there's an accident. He gets frozen and he ends up coming back to Earth like 400 years later. And so I just think that would be super cool to have like a normal dude, not a normal dude, but like just a guy in this Earth in the future. And so I think Buck Rogers, I'd love to see more Buck Rogers. I think that'd be super cool. My number one is, and again, I kept this to 80s stuff and I also kept it to things that I know for certain don't have a sequel in the can already. So that eliminates this guy right here,
I know. Right off the bat, you're like, I see Top Gun, but it's already being made. So absolutely.
Yeah. So I did keep that off of the list. So
because that's always been number one forever.
Right. So then that would be in my number one spot.
Yeah,
easily.
Absolutely.
If they hadn't already done it, it would be easily my number one spot. So I kind of stayed with something that I've heard rumors about, but I would love to see it, and it's an endearing movie to me. I love it. It's kind of the CGI in it is the first CGI basically of anything, which is The Last Starfighter. And I would love to see.
I feel like you've talked about this one recently.
The score to The Last Starfighter was great. I loved it. The whole premise of having a video game be a filter for selecting, the best pilots in the galaxy or whatever, you just drop this video game system in there, and then whoever gets the high score is the guy you're going to recruit. You've been recruited by the Starlink. And I mean, you pull this kid out of a
in today's world, this would be freaking badass, dude.
Yes, you could. Pull a kid out of a trailer park, for God's sakes, and then bring him and do that, and then you replace him with a synthetic android.
I want to be a regular person in this universe.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my number one sequel coming out of the 80s. I just would love to see a Last Starfighter. I just think that is a that is with how big gaming is nowadays versus, even back in the 80s, that was when gaming first really started, but it was, you had to go to the arcade, you had to have a stack of quarters, and now video games are so, ubiquitous so anyhow, Last Starfighter.
That's a great pick. I love that. That's creative as hell. Creative as hell. Great pick, Eric. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I want to be a regular person in that universe. So, Morgan, what do you got? What do you have for your 3 sequels that you would like to see made?
This is tough. So number 3, and I'm going to preface this as I might be the only one that wants to see this, and I say it because I enjoyed the movie and I want to see more of this world and what they could do with the hero. And I just want to see more of it. Okay. John Carter.
Oh,
yes, yeah.
On my list.
I just enjoyed the movie, and I guess I'm not the only one.
No, it was my number 3 too. Same.
Yeah. Wow, look at that.
So it's based on books. The first book's called Princess of Mars, the Gods of Mars, and then the Warlord of Mars, I think. And the way they set up the sequel at the end of the first one.
They could do so much more with it, but it just flopped and they just scratched it.
I know
I don't understand why.
I don't know how it.
I don't either. I don't quite get it.
Everybody who's seen it, I feel like, likes it. I don't know. It's a mystery.
Right. Now,
and it was going to be so good. Oh.
My second is kind of a weird one. Hancock. I enjoyed Hancock.
Yeah,
I thought it was a good movie, and with that movie, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it at this point, it's on you. He redeems himself. He becomes what he needs to be, and moves off to where he moves off to be a hero. Yeah, but I want to see more of that. I want to see what he becomes, and are there more of them? Yeah, they think there's only them, but is there more of them, of these special beings, these gods, whatever they are? I think it would be good to see him play that actual hero the whole movie, not this F up that becomes a hero again.
Right.
I'd like to see that. And
that'd be cool.
See how it plays on more of that, how they just have this natural draw to each other. Now they both know, no, we need to stay away. How does that play?
Yeah.
And get a little more Jason Bateman.
That'd be cool. And man, I love me some Charlize Theron.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
My number 1, my number 1, I would love to see a good true sequel to this.
Okay.
Chronicle.
Okay.
I think Chronicle is, again, Eric, we told you to watch this. If you haven't watched this yet, get out of here.
He hasn't watched Hawkeye yet.
He hasn't watched What If. No. No, Chronicle.
Guilty.
Chronicle is, I think, one of the best tellings of becoming a hero and becoming a villain that there is, of just people getting powers that out of the blue, you're getting these powers, and how your upbringing, your life, the way you live can make you go from one way to the other. I think it's one of the best tellings of it. And the way it ends, I don't want to say much because Eric, you got to watch it.
Yeah.
Now I know that there was a sequel in the works, but apparently it was too dark for the studio. And the guy said, hey, I'm only making it this way. If you don't want it, it's not being made. And they scrapped it. But that's something that I think deserves a true Trank. It deserves a true full trilogy, whatever it may be. And I think it would be one of the greatest hero trilogies, superhero, super whatever trilogies out there. I would love to see a true sequel to that.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be really cool. Sorry, Eric. Yeah, you gotta see that.
You'd really like it. It's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Really, really well done.
Yeah. So number 3.
My number 3 is John Carter. Again, yep. I would love to see. What's the actress's name in that movie? Oh man, she is one of the most gorgeous women. Definitely put her on the paint the wall list because she's gorgeous. Taylor Kish. isn't the most charismatic in
Lynn
that.
Collins.
Lynn Collins, that's right. She was in Wolverine, the Wolverine. She was Silver Fox or something. What's her name? Anyway,
Kayla Silver.
it really felt like by the end of John Carter, once he accepted he was John Carter of Mars. He really grew into that role, and I would have liked to see where that character went next.
Yeah.
So underrated movie. I'm really upset about that storyline not continuing. My number 2 is a comedy. I'd love to see. This is one of the only movies that I went to the movie theater twice, and within the first couple of weeks. It's Bridesmaids. I'd love to see a sequel to Bridesmaids, because if I could rank out the hardest I've ever laughed in a movie theater, Bridesmaids would be my top 3.
Interesting.
And so I'd love to see a sequel where, it's Kristen Wiig getting married, and maybe Melissa McCarthy's character getting married to the air marshal.
That was a banging cast. I mean, that was a banging cast.
Yeah.
And
it really was.
And the writing was spot on. I mean, just everybody.
Paul Feig.
It was so good. It was so good. Yeah, that's a great pick. And I would like to see more from that, because you've got so much. That
scene where they're going back and forth, Rose Byrne and her at the engagement party, and she starts speaking Spanish.
Yeah,
I
shit on myself in the theater. That was so funny.
Yeah.
And then my number 1 sequel I would love to see made, if in a perfect world where I don't have to hate some of the character or the cast members in the movie, and then we get James Cameron back, and we get Arnold back, and we get Tom Arnold back, and we see True Lies 2.
Oh, yes.
We see the continuation of
that'd be so good.
Arnold and Jamie Lee Curtis husband and wife spy movie. How freaking awesome would that movie be?
Yes. Yeah. That's a great pick,
so
man.
Good.
Yep.
So good.
And I'd love to see that. You could even, have his daughter in there. She became a big actress, although blanking on her name.
Eliza Dushku.
Eliza
Dushku. Yes.
That is such a good movie.
I remember the first time I got shot out of a cannon.
I mean, you want to talk about an infinitely quotable movie that's an action movie? This is James Cameron letting his genius. I would love to see the movies that made us around this movie.
Oh yeah.
How it came to be, because it is an annual watch for sure.
When they're all drugged up and tied in it. Are they going to kill us? And Arnold's yep.
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 Have you ever killed anybody? Yeah, but they were all bad.
They were all bad.
Yeah, they were all bad.
They were all bad. He's just so innocently because he's so drugged up.
Or when she runs down with that Uzi and she just drops it.
Yeah. That is great. The most ridiculous part of that movie.
It is.
Bill Paxton's car salesman is one of the I'm just a used car salesman.
What a spy piss himself, man.
Dude, Tom Arnold in that movie.
He hides behind the pole, and they shoot at him behind the pole.
He's like,
it's such a good movie.
It's so good. It's when you think about I want to be entertained on so many different levels. That movie is that. So I'd love to see True Lies too.
Oh yeah, when you talk about Arnold, that's a go-to movie.
Yeah.
Can we talk about movies that we don't want to see a sequel from? Because I have a James Cameron movie, but unfortunately we're getting 2 of them. Which is Avatar.
No.
The first movie was so bad, and I don't understand. I do not understand why.
Because it was different.
Because of the 3D technology.
It was the real first 3D.
It was the first big 3D. It was nobody. It was that first immersive 3D. It wasn't shooting lasers at your eyes. It was they were running around you, and That was cool as shit.
You could
But
put your hair with
I don't think it needed to be the biggest movie of all time. You know,
the main character is a wooden plank. Like, I mean, he seriously is like a walking.
Sam Worthington got his name on the first time this time.
He would give up his heart to help the humans against the machines.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible movie, but it was cool to see. It was cool to go to see in the theaters, and the ticket prices were more expensive than any ticket ever. So when you adjust for like,
again, to Cameron's credit,
or whatever,
he made them go find Pandora and film there. Because he
demands perfection.
He demands perfection.
He is dedicated.
Find Pandora.
He is dedicated.
Yeah. What's your next one?
Unobtainium. God,
it's up there with vibranium.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a fun list. It's really hard to nail it down. There's some really great. There's so many great sequels. There's so many bad sequels. There's probably more bad sequels than there are great sequels. There's sequels that are really great that, don't hold a candle to the first one. Die Hard 2, Bad Boys 2. Those are great movies, and I watch them still. Not anywhere near the original product. You have movies like Scary Movie 2, which are a billion times better than the first movie. And that was, again, maybe top 5 hardest I've ever laughed in a movie theater. It's hard not to put that one on the best list because it was so much better than the first one. Toy Story 3 is one of the greatest movies ever made. That
really is.
That is that's The Man from Uncle. I would love to see a movie, a sequel to that movie. So the Speed 2, Cruise Control was literally on Cruise Control. Like, what a aptly named movie that is.
That doesn't count.
Those are some of my honorable mentions. I know you guys got honorable mentions.
Yeah, honorable mention on the shit lists of stuff is basically every Terminator movie after number 2.
Whoa, that's really saying something.
Number 3 was.
It was bad.
I'll say that number 3 was a bad movie, but the rest of them, I
really love Terminator Salvation. I'm sorry.
You can, but
feel to be dumb.
I feel like the first 2 thirds of that movie were decent, but the ending of that movie is terrible. But what's worse is, and going back to my list of best sequels, Aliens. Every movie in the Alien franchise post Aliens is a shit sandwich. It is just an awful. I
think it's worse than what the rest of the Terminator movies.
I agreed completely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So another one that I would like to see, and rumor has it that they're going to make it. I don't know if they will. I don't know. Is Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt's.
Oh yes!
Oh yeah!
Yes.
Edge of Tomorrow.
They are going to make it though.
I have heard
rumored.
It's rumored. So if they do, love it. I would love to see more of that. So how's
that an honorable mention?
I know. I thought about that. Yeah.
I would probably name it
right up there with a Night and Day happening. 2. I would like to see a Night and Day 2. No, I'm just joking. No.
two night and day. 2 weeks in a row, Night and Day getting a reference. 2 weeks in a row. First podcast in the history to ever reference Night and Day.
Ever. Even when it was out, the first podcast.
Where's our plaque, damn it? Where's our plack?
There's
it's confirmed though that it is happening, Eric. So I would
So if I love it.
Why honorable mention. Yeah.
Yep.
So did you go through yours?
Mine?
No, Eric.
No, that's pretty much all.
That's so for need ones that
he was
some honorable mentions that I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a sequel to I Am Legend. I'd like to see something to World War Z. Again, those type of movies where it ends where like, are we saving humanity or are we not? I want to see, do they? Again, that's just me. I just want to see what happens next.
That's a good point. I like that.
I would like to see. I would like to see them go back and do World War Z closer to the book.
The right way.
Because I mean,
and they could do it.
Yes, they have the same title, but that's the only similarities between those two. Is really just the title.
For best and honorable mention again. I don't know. Temple of Doom. That holds a special place in my heart. Something about that movie. I love that.
I think Last Crusade is better. Yeah, I think Last Crusade.
Temple of Doom. Something about it just. It's in there.
It's a special place.
Well, this is the same person that hates Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker. Your judgment is
Luke Skywalker is compromised. So my honorable mention on worst, Wonder Woman 84.
That was a terrible.
It's a terrible movie. They went from I really enjoyed Wonder Woman to just garbage. Like what is this? The whole mall scene.
Did you ever see that, Eric? I don't think you ever watched it. You finally end up watching it?
I stopped it. Just so you know. Like I stopped.
Can you watch Chronicle instead?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, that was a terrible movie. No. That's a great outside the bubble pick.
It was just so bad. I mean, I've never seen a movie so I have, but that's just everything. The whole everything about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And any other honorable mentions for you? I think an honorable mention for me also on the best is Back to the Future 2. It's still like a really great movie, but Back to the Future 1 is
it's your kids party.
Is the perfect movie. So when you can't follow that up and expect not to fall short. So
maybe a Forrest Gump 2. I want to find out what happens to that.
I thought about that as well. I'm like, but now it's just like old Tom Hanks. It'd be weird. It'd be too weird. Yeah, but back like in the early 2000s, I did want a Forrest Gump 2. Shawshank 2. They escaped from paradise.
Escape from paradise.
They want to nail.
They want to nail.
Zoolander 2 is also on my list of horrible sequels.
It was a bad one. It really was a bad one.
Or Dumb and Dumber? Was that I don't know.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber 2.
When Harry met Lloyd or whatever.
Dumb and Dumber 2, and then Dumb and Dumber. So Dumb and Dumber 2 was the non-Jim Carrey movie, and then Dumb and Dumberer.
That was the Jim Carrey one.
Or was that? No, I can't remember.
I don't know.
Who cares? Because they both sucked.
There we go.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure was a pretty good sequel.
I didn't mind that.
Still not as good as the first one. All right. Anyway, sequels is a very fun category. Send us your best, worst, and 3 sequels you'd like to be made. We know the greatest movie of all time is Back to the Future, but my favorite movie of all time is Empire Strikes Back, which is a sequel.
Yeah.
So
it's
too easy to pick that,
Now that we're at the end of the show, at the end of the show, we probably should have said this at the very beginning of the show, which was a lot of us, we stayed away from. We kind of had a rule set. We kind of talked about, which was. We stayed away from continuing stories, like Lord of the Rings or like Star Wars or, these franchises, the MCU type franchises where it's like an ongoing thing because it just
Kids.
Yeah, right. The Spy Kids series, Robert Rodriguez's masterpieces. So
Spy Kids has come up in my house like 3 times in the last.
As bad as they are, I actually love the sequel. The Spy Kids 2 sequel is so bad. I love it. I just absolutely love it. It's just.
Is that what the one with Sly?
You know what? I'd love a freaking sequel if we could just go back. If all things considered could be right.
Iconic.
Hook 2. I'd love a sequel to Hook 2 if all things considered. We had the.
You know what?
Is Hook itself a sequel? That's kind of a question. Is Hook itself a sequel?
Well, now you got me thinking, damn it.
Have to fly.
Have to
crow.
To Peter Pan.
Yeah. Hook is a sequel. Hook is
have to say Maggie. Have to say Jack. Hook is back. I love that movie. Or just the part when he's like,
I watched that movie.
Yeah, he lost.
We watched that Marvel. He really lost him.
He lost him real good. In college, I watched that movie every night to go to bed. I could quote it inside and out. I love it.
We watched it at family movie night 2 weeks ago.
So good.
I got some lotion in my eyes because I was like getting the nostalgia tingles throughout.
Oh yeah.
It's just an amazing movie, and it's just one of those. I was like, Penny, that movie is all about using your imagination.
When he's doing the happy thought, and he's like, oh, and then Jack. Jack was born, and I was like, oh my God! Like now that you watch it as a parent, you're like, oof. Like that. Yeah. That is one of my all-time favorite movies. Now that you say that, I'd love to see a sequel to it.
Well, you like to see talking about sequels that got made that maybe shouldn't have got made. Is another one is you said something about it. It wasn't terrible, but the Home Alone stuff, because the first two Home Alones. Like Home Alone 2 is a great sequel. It really is. It's not up there. I couldn't put it on the list, but of even honorable mentions, but it's really good. It's a really good one. And I have not laughed. I remember
it gets too like every single injury would kill that. Right. It was like it got to be like too much, you know.
Well, do you ever see the Family Guy picking on it?
The 75
when they walk in the house and they go,
85% of that
Hot Wheels cars here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thanks. Because I'm going to get you guys. Now we have no witnesses.
That movie is almost as good as the original all the way up until the break-in scene.
The part where he electrocutes and the skeleton. I don't think I've laughed that hard since before or since that time. Like that scene when he's
that high pitch. It's so good. You see the skeleton.
He would definitely die. You know, like everything that happens to them, they would die.
So good.
Oh my gosh.
It got to be a little too much, but it's still up.
But what I learned from that movie is make friends with the homeless at Central Park.
That's right.
Yeah, seriously. That lady used to scare the shit out of me, man.
Yeah, the pigeon lady.
So sequels it's a fun topic. Send us your best, worst, and ones that you want to see. We would love to hear them. And stay tuned for next week. We're getting Jason back, and we're gonna do comedies. So start thinking about your favorite comedies, and we're gonna break it up into different lists like we did today. Maybe give us some parameters, but we'll just tease it out that next week is comedies, and then the following week is going to be holiday movies, best holiday movies. So hopefully you started your holiday movie marathon.
Starts tonight for me.
There you go. Family? And
Die Hard.
Yep, started Die Hard earlier for me, so we're on the same page. Yeah, so he showed it to his son on his birthday yesterday.
My 8-year-old child. I covered his eyes during the
Father of the Year. Father.
He said, I wonder how much ketchup they used during this movie to make the fake blood. I was like,
Newton covered his eyes.
It's not ketchup, son. It's not ketchup.
Welcome to the party, Carson. So
first time you ever heard mother effer.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, second grade.
Yeah, I was definitely saying that.
Kids these days.
Great list, guys. I love this topic. Can't wait to hear about comedies next week from you guys, and we're having Jason back. So looking forward to seeing you next week on the Nerd Rundown Presents.
See ya. Bye.
Deuces.